After the end of the Second World War, the F4U Corsair entered a new and complex stage of its existence, one that would redefine its perception, expand its operational reach, and secure its reputation as one of the longest-serving piston-engine fighters ever built. Although the war had concluded with jet engines already emerging as the future of combat aviation, the Corsair did not fade into irrelevance. Instead, it began a remarkable second life that stretched across continents, conflicts, and generations of pilots who continued to rely on its rugged construction and immense power. Its survival after 1945 was not merely a continuation of past glory but a transformation that revealed how adaptable the airframe truly was. At a time when the world believed piston fighters would vanish, the Corsair proved that under certain conditions, brute strength, range, and firepower still had undeniable value. When the war ended, the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps held thousands of Corsairs in inventory. Initially, many analysts assumed that these aircraft would be quickly retired as the United States focused on jet fighters like the F-H Phantom, F-9F Panther, and the early F-J Fury. But unlike some wartime aircraft that disappeared almost instantly, the Corsair's combination of speed, durability, and superb handling continued to make it valuable. Engineers and officers understood that jets, while promising, still lacked the reliability and endurance needed for certain missions. As a result, the Corsair remained an essential tool in U.S. naval aviation, especially within Marine Corps aviation units, where the aircraft's ability to operate from short, rough airstrips made it irreplaceable. During the immediate post-war years, the Corsair's role shifted from pure fighter to a multi-purpose aircraft capable of ground attack, reconnaissance, and even night fighting. The first modifications were minor, focusing on extending service life, improving cockpit ergonomics, and adapting equipment for new missions. Yet as political tensions grew and conflicts erupted around the world, the Corsair found itself in demand once again. In fact, one of the most important chapters in its history occurred not during World War II but in the early 1950s, when the Korean War erupted and nations urgently needed proven military hardware. Before Korea, however, the Corsair was already becoming a favorite export aircraft. The United States, looking to support allied nations while reducing its own stockpiles, provided Corsairs to a number of foreign air forces. France, Britain, New Zealand, and several Latin American countries received varying numbers of these fighters. Each nation found new uses for the aircraft, and in many of these environments, the Corsair began to take on missions that American pilots had rarely attempted. For example, French Corsairs became instrumental in the conflicts in Indochina during the late 1940s, where they were used extensively in close air support missions in rugged terrain. In these operations, the Corsair's toughness was repeatedly demonstrated, as it absorbed small arms fire, operated in intense heat, and maintained reliability under conditions that would have grounded more delicate aircraft. Meanwhile, within the U.S. military, the Corsair underwent significant modernization. Engineers developed new variants, such as the F4U-4, F4U-5, -1 Australian dollar, and the advanced F4U-7. Each modification targeted a specific type of mission. The F4U-4, for example, introduced a more powerful engine, water injection systems for temporary power boosts, and improved armament. These changes allowed the aircraft to keep pace with evolving threats and mission requirements in the years between major global conflicts. The United States Marine Corps, particularly, relied on these improvements as it transitioned from World War II operations to Cold War strategies. When the Korean War erupted in 1950, the Corsair re-emerged as a frontline aircraft. Despite being a piston-engine fighter competing in a new era of jets, the Corsair proved that jets did not dominate every battlefield. Korea's mountainous terrain, unpredictable weather, and rapidly shifting front lines created an environment where the Corsair's ability to loiter, carry heavy ordnance, and strike with precision became essential. Marine and Navy pilots flew thousands of sorties, often at low altitude, providing close air support to embattled ground units. In these missions, the Corsair established itself as one of the most respected and feared ground attack platforms of the war. Corsair pilots in Korea often flew extremely dangerous missions, descending into valleys filled with anti-aircraft guns and exposing themselves to intense small arms fire. Yet the aircraft's rugged construction allowed many pilots to return safely even with significant damage. Stories emerged of Corsairs returning with holes in wings, shredded control surfaces, and missing armor plates, but still managing safe landings. These accounts reinforced the belief that the Corsair possessed not only speed and firepower but an inherent resilience unmatched by many aircraft of its time. Even the introduction of enemy MiG-15 jet fighters did not render the Corsair obsolete. Although no one expected the Corsair to dogfight jets on equal terms, it continued to excel because its primary role shifted to missions that jets were not suited for. In addition to combat use, the Corsair also continued to evolve as a night fighter after the war. Night fighting variants equipped with radar were used extensively in Korea for night interdiction missions. These aircraft hunted trucks, trains, and troop movements under cover of darkness, leveraging radar technology combined with the Corsair's excellent low-speed stability. The ability to loiter for long periods in dangerous airspace gave commanders confidence in the aircraft's capabilities, even as jet aircraft slowly became more mainstream. While the U.S. military was heavily engaged with Corsairs in Korea, the aircraft was simultaneously experiencing a prolonged and distinguished career in foreign service. France, in particular, used the Corsair extensively throughout the 1950s. French naval aviation deployed the Corsair in Indochina, during the Suez Crisis, and later in Algeria. In these conflicts, the aircraft's ability to deliver bombs, rockets, napalm, and machine gun fire made it a versatile tool for counterinsurgency operations. French pilots admired the aircraft's stability and precision, often describing it as an aircraft that gave confidence even in the most chaotic situations. One of the most striking aspects of the post-war Corsair story is how long it remained in frontline service. While most piston-engine fighters disappeared by the mid-1950s, the Corsair was still actively flying combat missions around the world well into the 1960s. Honduras and El Salvador, for instance, employed Corsairs during their border conflicts, including the brief but intense 1969 football war. In these engagements, Corsairs fought each other in some of the world's last piston-engine dogfights. This strange and almost nostalgic moment, jets ruling the skies globally, yet Corsairs battling each other in Central America, captured the unique enduring relevance of the design. It was as if the aircraft refused to accept that its era had passed. Beyond military service, the Corsair also entered a more peaceful chapter during the post-war years. Surplus aircraft were sold into civilian hands, where they were restored, modified, and flown in airshows. The distinctive inverted gull wing, massive propeller, and powerful radial engine made it a crowd favorite. Pilots praised the Corsair for its responsiveness and thrilling performance, while spectators admired its unmistakable silhouette and deep, thunderous engine note. In private hands, the aircraft became a living testament to a bygone age of aviation. Some former military pilots acquired Corsairs to relive memories of their service, while younger generations discovered the aircraft for the first time, preserving a connection to aviation history long after it disappeared from military inventories. Corsairs also gained a new form of cultural immortality through media. The aircraft appeared in documentaries, films, books, and television series. One of the most famous examples was the series Ba Ba Black Sheep, also known as Black Sheep Squadron, which aired during the 1970s and increased public interest in the Corsair. Even decades after the aircraft's retirement, this renewed attention sparked restorations, museum acquisitions, and aviation events dedicated to preserving its legacy. For museums, acquiring a Corsair became a priority, especially because the aircraft represented not only advanced engineering but a long lineage of combat history spanning from the Pacific Theater to Korea and numerous post-war conflicts. The longevity of the Corsair can also be attributed to the sheer robustness of its airframe. Many surplus airframes were stored in boneyards after the war, where they sat for years before being rediscovered by collectors or military organizations. The durability of the aircraft allowed restoration teams to bring even badly deteriorated examples back to flying condition. In some cases, Corsairs that had not flown for decades were restored to airworthiness, a feat that highlighted both the strength of the original design and the dedication of technicians determined to preserve aviation history. Another key chapter in the Corsair's post-war life involved its transformation into a living symbol of naval aviation heritage. The U.S. Navy and Marine Corps continued to honor the Corsair at airshows, commemorations, and official events, recognizing its role in shaping the identity of American carrier aviation. Many veterans who had flown Corsairs in World War II and Korea described the aircraft as more than a machine. It was a trusted partner, a protector, and sometimes even a lifeline. In their memories, the Corsair was not just a tool of war but a powerful and emotionally significant part of their lives. As these veterans aged, their stories further strengthened the Corsair's iconic status. This emotional connection extended to foreign pilots as well. French aviators spoke fondly of the Corsair's reliability in brutal conditions. British Fleet Air Arm pilots remembered how the aircraft became more manageable after the introduction of landing gear modifications that solved its early carrier landing difficulties. New Zealand pilots praised its versatility and its ability to operate in remote regions. Even pilots from Central America, who flew the aircraft in later decades, expressed admiration for its maneuverability and strength. The legacy of the Corsair after the Second World War is deeply intertwined with the dramatic global shift in aviation technology. While jets represented the future, the Corsair represented the pinnacle of piston-engine fighter design. This contrast created a unique historical moment. A machine born in the crucible of the Pacific Theater continued to thrive long after its supposed obsolescence. Because of this, the Corsair became a bridge between eras. It served as a reminder of the brilliance of mechanical engineering at a time when aviation was transitioning into the electronic and supersonic age. By the early 1970s, most Corsairs had retired from military service worldwide, although a few lingered longer in remote regions. The final military operator officially withdrew its Corsairs during the 1970s, marking the end of one of the longest active careers for any fighter aircraft of its generation. Yet even retirement did not diminish the aircraft's significance. Instead, it entered a new role as a historical artifact, a restored warbird, and an ambassador of aviation heritage. Museums sought Corsairs for their collections, restorers invested years into bringing surviving airframes back to life, and aviation enthusiasts honored the aircraft at events around the globe. But perhaps the greatest testament to the Corsair's post-war legacy is the simple fact that nearly a century after its first flight, several Corsairs continue to fly today. These aircraft, lovingly maintained by dedicated crews, appear at airshows, commemorations, and historical events, demonstrating their extraordinary engineering and inspiring new generations to appreciate aviation history. When one witnesses a Corsair roaring overhead, wings gleaming in the sun, the sound of its massive radial engine echoing across the sky, it becomes clear that the legacy of the F4U Corsair did not end in 1945, nor in Korea, nor in any of the conflicts where it fought. Instead, its legacy continues to evolve, carried forward by those who refuse to let such an extraordinary machine be forgotten. As the decades progressed and the F4U Corsair transitioned fully into its post-military life, its presence in museums, private collections, and cultural memory deepened rather than diminished. Governments, historians, and aviation enthusiasts increasingly recognized that the Corsair represented not only an engineering triumph but a living artifact that reflected the global turbulence of the mid-20th century. Restorations intensified during the 1980s and 1990s, with many airframes being recovered from storage depots, remote airfields, and even crash sites. Some had spent years deteriorating in tropical environments, while others had been preserved in surprisingly good condition by dry desert climates. Each restoration project required thousands of hours of careful labor, deep technical knowledge, and respect for the aircraft's structural integrity. Mechanics developed a profound appreciation for the original designers, who had crafted a machine with such durability that even after decades of neglect, it could still be made to fly again. As restored Corsairs returned to the skies, they became a central attraction at aviation events across North America, Europe, and Australasia. Airshows highlighted the aircraft's impressive maneuverability, the distinctive whine of its airflow over the wingtips, and the thunderous growl of its Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp engine. Veterans attending these shows often found themselves transported back in time, recalling long-forgotten emotions and experiences from their service years. Some would approach the aircraft after demonstrations, place a hand on its fuselage, and whisper quiet memories of friends who had flown similar machines in combat. For spectators who had never seen a Corsair in person, the encounter often exceeded expectations. The aircraft's size, presence, and aggressive stance surprised many who had previously known it only from photographs. Up close, the Corsair appeared even more powerful and imposing, a reminder that it had once been one of the most advanced fighters on Earth. The Corsair also became a subject of academic research during this era. Aviation historians studied its impact on American naval strategy, its influence on post-war aircraft design, and its significance in conflicts such as Korea and Indochina. Scholars analyzed combat reports, maintenance records, pilot testimonies, and engineering documents, piecing together a fuller understanding of the Corsair's role in shaping mid-century military aviation. Universities, museums, and publications devoted special issues to the aircraft, celebrating not only its contributions but also its unique aesthetics and technological innovations. The inverted gull wing, once a radical solution to engineering challenges, became a symbol of inventive problem-solving during wartime. The Corsair's distinctive appearance also influenced generations of artists, filmmakers, and model builders who sought to capture its essence. Another evolution in the Corsair's post-war legacy was its increasing presence in digital media. Flight simulators recreated the aircraft with remarkable accuracy, allowing enthusiasts to experience its handling characteristics virtually. Online communities emerged to discuss restoration techniques, authentic paint schemes, and historical missions. These communities connected people from around the world, uniting them in shared admiration for an aircraft that had outlived expectations by decades. Younger audiences, introduced to the Corsair through video games and documentaries, developed an interest in aviation history that might not have formed otherwise. As these digital representations improved, they preserved not only the image of the Corsair but also the knowledge required to operate and maintain it. The Corsair's international service continued to shape its legacy well into the late 20th century. Air forces in Central America retired their final examples, marking the end of the aircraft's active military life. Yet even in retirement, many nations honored the Corsair as part of their aviation heritage. Some donated their last airframes to museums, others placed them on display in public squares or air bases. These static examples served as silent testaments to an era when piston-engine aircraft still dominated the sky and air combat was deeply personal, requiring skill, nerve, and physical endurance. Each Corsair displayed in these settings represented countless hours of flight, maintenance effort, and historical significance. In the United States, the Corsair gained renewed prominence through veteran organizations and naval commemorations. Former Marine Corps pilots who had flown the aircraft in Korea and during post-war patrols often participated in interviews, writing memoirs and giving presentations at aviation museums. Their stories deepened the public's understanding of what it was like to operate the powerful fighter in extreme conditions. They described the aircraft's quirks, its strengths, its terrifying moments, and its miraculous survivability. Many emphasized that the Corsair, despite its size and power, was responsive and dependable in combat. One veteran recalled how the aircraft absorbed heavy ground fire during a close air support mission, losing part of a wing and suffering severe hydraulic damage, yet still managed to carry him back to base. Such stories reinforced the Corsair's reputation as a machine that valued the lives of its pilots. The Corsair also played a surprising role in advancing post-war aviation technology. Engineers studying surviving Corsairs analyzed the impact of stress, fatigue, and long-term operational wear on airframes. Their findings contributed to improvements in aircraft maintenance practices and material sciences. Even though jets dominated the future, lessons learned from the Corsair helped refine safety protocols and design philosophies used in military and civilian aircraft alike. The ruggedness of the Corsair's construction inspired greater focus on durability in future aircraft, especially those intended for carrier operations or harsh environments. In this way, the Corsair continued to influence aviation indirectly, long after its last official mission. The aircraft's impact extended beyond the technical and historical realms into cultural symbolism. For many, the Corsair represented resilience, adaptability, and courage. It had survived wartime production challenges, operational setbacks, and the revolutionary transition to jet power. It had proven indispensable in conflicts that demanded reliability and precision at low altitude. And it had remained beloved even after retirement, evolving into an icon of American naval and Marine Corps aviation. The silhouette of the Corsair, its bent wings, long nose, and massive propeller, became instantly recognizable, a visual shorthand for the generation that fought in the Pacific and the pilots who supported ground troops in Korea. Collectors and restoration groups around the world continued to search for remaining Corsair airframes throughout the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Some discovered aircraft buried under jungle growth, abandoned on remote islands where they had crash-landed or been left behind after the war. Others found airframes in scrapyards, where they had been stripped of usable parts and left to deteriorate. In many cases, these discoveries led to ambitious restoration projects that took years to complete. Restorers documented each step meticulously, preserving knowledge for future generations. The act of restoring a Corsair became more than a technical challenge, it became a mission to honor history, revive a masterpiece of engineering, and ensure that the voices of the past continued to echo into the future. Today, the number of airworthy Corsairs is relatively small, but each surviving example holds immense value. Owners invest extraordinary resources into maintaining these aircraft, aware that every flight is both a celebration and a responsibility. At major airshows, fans gather eagerly to watch Corsairs take to the sky, performing elegant passes and powerful climbs that demonstrate the aircraft's enduring capabilities. For observers, seeing a Corsair in flight connects them to history in a visceral way. The deep roar of its engine evokes memories of wartime footage, but the pristine condition of the aircraft highlights the dedication of those who preserve it. For pilots, flying a Corsair is often described as a profound experience, blending respect, admiration, and joy. Many say that the aircraft feels alive, responding to inputs with a combination of strength and grace unmatched by modern machines. Museums play a crucial role in safeguarding the Corsair's legacy. Institutions across the United States, France, Britain, New Zealand, and other countries have acquired and restored Corsairs to display them to the public. These exhibits often include detailed explanations of the aircraft's role in global conflicts, as well as personal stories from pilots and ground crews. Some museums allow visitors to sit in cockpit replicas or interact with multimedia presentations that simulate flight operations. These immersive experiences help visitors appreciate the challenges faced by wartime aviators and the remarkable engineering that allowed the Corsair to thrive. The Corsair has also influenced popular perceptions of military aviation. Its appearances in films, television, and literature have often portrayed it as a bold and heroic machine. While some depictions romanticize its history, others attempt to capture the raw realities of its combat service. Regardless of the tone, these portrayals ensure that the Corsair remains embedded in cultural memory. Model kits, artwork, and collectible merchandise continue to be produced, appealing to a wide range of enthusiasts. Schools and educational programs frequently feature the Corsair when teaching about World War II aviation, using its story to illustrate themes of innovation, adaptation, and global conflict. Despite the passage of time, the Corsair's story remains relevant for modern audiences. Its post-war journey teaches that technology does not become obsolete simply because something newer emerges. The Corsair demonstrated that the right aircraft, designed with intelligence and built with strength, could adapt to new roles and remain effective under evolving conditions. It also showed that history is shaped not only by innovation but by perseverance. The aircraft became an example of how machines can outlive their intended lifespan when they capture the imagination of those who encounter them. The Corsair's global influence continues through international collaborations between museums, restoration teams, and aviation historians. These groups share parts, research, and technical knowledge to support ongoing preservation efforts. Some nations have even undertaken joint restoration projects, symbolizing shared respect for the aircraft's legacy. These collaborations highlight the Corsair's role as a unifying force, transcending borders and generations. In the modern era, advances in digital archiving have ensured that the Corsair's history will never be lost. Flight manuals, engineering diagrams, combat reports, and maintenance documents have been scanned and preserved online. Oral histories from pilots and crew members have been recorded and stored in digital archives. Photographs and films have been restored and published, allowing future generations to study and appreciate the aircraft's evolution. This digital preservation is essential, as it provides lasting access to historical materials that might otherwise deteriorate or disappear. The F4U Corsair's post-Second World War journey is a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and dedication. Born out of wartime necessity, it evolved into a multifaceted tool of peacekeeping, national defense, and historical preservation. It fought in conflicts long after the war that created it, adapted to new roles with remarkable versatility, and ultimately became one of the most celebrated aircraft of its era. Its longevity on the battlefield was matched only by its longevity in human memory. Even as the decades passed and technology advanced beyond recognition, the Corsair remained relevant, admired, and beloved. Today, when a Corsair rises into the sky at an airshow, its wings catching the light just as they did generations ago, it embodies not just history but continuity, the unbroken connection between the past and the present. The story of what happened to the F4U Corsair after the Second World War is therefore not a simple conclusion but an ongoing legacy. It is the story of an aircraft that refused to disappear, that found new ways to serve, that inspired countless individuals across time, and that continues to remind us of the remarkable achievements possible when engineering brilliance meets human courage. Even now, the Corsair stands as a symbol of endurance, a bridge between eras, and a tribute to all who flew, maintained, restored, and preserved it. Its journey did not end in 1945, nor in Korea, nor with its final military retirement. Its journey continues each time its engine roars to life, each time a spectator looks up in awe, and each time history is told through its wings.